For this course, we'll be using XAMPP as our local web server. And if you're familiar with XAMPP, you'll know that it contains an Apache web server, so we can develop websites locally on our machine. And we'll be using it because we will be looking at AJAX requests soon. And in order to send AJAX, you definitely need to send them over an HTTP protocol. So we'll just start using XAMPP from the onset. So you can just go ahead and go to apachefriends.org and download the XAMPP version that goes with your particular machine, whether you have a Windows, Linux, or a Mac, and you can just download that. Also, we'll be using the popular Visual Studio Code as our editor, and you can just go to code.visualstudio.com and again download the version for your particular machine. Okay, so I already have XAMPP installed. So once you install XAMPP, just go ahead and fire up your Apache module, and that will be all we'll pretty much be needing for now. So go ahead and get that started, and let's just minimize it, and let me open up my Visual Studio Code. Okay, so since we're using XAMPP, we will be saving our files in our XAMPP directory. So we'll go to local disk C, XAMPP, and our files will live inside the htdocs folder. So I've already gone ahead and created a folder for this course, dynamic web with JavaScript, and I can go ahead and open up this folder here in Visual Studio. All right, so go ahead and drop this here. Right, so now we have that folder opened up in our Visual Studio Code. And actually, so as to not cause any confusion, let me close this folder, and I'm only going to use the lessons folder. So let me drag this over. Right, so now we'll only be working from the lessons directory inside of the dynamic web folder. And in order to get to this page, of course, we will need to open up localhost. So let me close these windows. And once you have XAMPP installed and you type in localhost, you should get this dashboard. So this lets you know that everything is running, and then you can type the name of your directory. So the name of our directory inside htdocs is dynamic web. So we have to type the name of the directory. So we can type it here. And if we hit enter, we can see the other directories that live inside of that folder. So I'll be using the lessons folder. So I'm going to click on the lessons directory, and any files that I save inside this directory will show up here so that I can run it in the browser. Now that we've gotten all of that set up, let's now go and create our first HTML file. So we can click on new file, and let's simply call this hello.html. And let us start our all right, so we put the necessary HTML head tags, and of course we need a body tag. Okay, and in our body we are simply going to have a paragraph tag. And right before the closing body tag, we are going to write our script. All right. So the first thing we want to do, so let's save this. And if we try to run this, if we refresh this, now we are seeing our hello.html. And if we click on this, of course, nothing prints to the screen as yet. So we're going to use JavaScript to dynamically print some content to the screen. And just to test that JavaScript is in fact working, we can do an alert. And we can say and let's save this and refresh, and we get our pop-up saying JavaScript is working. All right, so we already have JavaScript set up in our document. Now what I can do, I can save my paragraph tag and call it my paragraph and set that equal to document dot, and we have a query selector in JavaScript, and we can simply select our paragraph tag between single quotes, and then we can say my paragraph dot text content is equal to, let's use single quotes, and let's close that off, and let's save this and test it. Right, so we're seeing that this hello world is being dynamically generated by JavaScript, and we can inspect our page and go to the console. And see that our script is in fact here, showing up here in our HTML. Okay. Also, if there was an error for any reason, we had an error, we could simply, for instance, if I made a mistake here and capitalize this for some reason, right, so any errors that we would get in our code would show up here. So we can see that we're no longer getting our hello world, and our errors get printed here in the console section. So if your code doesn't run for some reason, you're not getting the desired results that you would like, definitely do an inspect element. Let me show you how to do that again. Right click on the page, click on inspect, and go to the console tab, and you should get some form of error reporting here. And it's basically saying that my paragraph is not defined, and this is our variable. All right, so at hello.html line 13, so if we check that at line 13, we can see here that we need to switch that back since everything is case sensitive. And now once we refresh, we get our text and the error disappears. So that essentially, that is how all we need to get up and running with JavaScript in our web page.